each of you this afternoon, and I've introduced myself to some of you, but let me introduce myself. My name is Dolores, or D. Neer, and this is my husband of 59 years, Charlie.
Wow.
We're ordained ministers of the Assemblies of God, and I was asked to officiate this service, and I thank you for this privilege.
Thank you.
Yes. And we're gathered here today in honor of 4 persons whose names I'll give in just a moment. You may be questioning why the family has waited until now to have 4 of these people recognized just at one time. But Sheila told me that the COVID pandemic, which has caused so much problems anyway, it made them wait to conduct the memorials together. And Nicholas, her son, said this was the idea, so I think it's a good idea. And so we're here today to commemorate 4 different people. Please allow me to begin by a prayer of blessing over this time. Heavenly Father, thank you for being a God who hears us when we pray. And thank you that you have promised to be with us, not only in those times of joy, but also in those times of grief. And this is such a time for the family and friends of the deceased, a time of deep grief as they mourn and as they remember. Tenderly use this time to heal their sorrows. Gently use family and friends to ease their pain. And softly may peace replace heartaches, and may warmest memorials remain. This is a memorial in honor of them, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
The 4 special people we honor today are Robert Bob Judd, Robert Arthur Judd, and his wife Ellen Elizabeth Judd, and Mike Mcikean, who is considered part of the family. That's Michael Stephen Mcikean, and Kevin Wildman, Debbie's husband and Diana's dad. Robert or Bob and Ellen and Kevin and Mike, important people we honor today. And Diana is going to come now and read the obituaries. Would you come, Diana?
How cute it's on her.
We're going to start with my grandmother. Ellen was with Judd, February 21st, 1938 to January 29th, 2020. Heaven has gained another angel
Yes, I can't either.
after a long battle with cancer. Ellen was gentle and a kind-hearted woman. She loved her family with a passion that held no bounds. Her grandchildren and great-grandchildren gave her immense joy. All her grandchildren have fond memories of her singing to us as children and being comforted by her sleeping helps. Her bright smile and positivity drew people near and created lasting friendships throughout her life. It did not matter to her if you hadn't seen each other in forever. She would always bestow you with that beautiful smile and embrace. Ellen was born to William and Monica Butler in Elephant, Pennsylvania. Her best friends were her 2 brothers, John and Bill Butler. Her family moved to Niagara Falls, New York, where she attended school and eventually met her true love, her husband of 60 years, Robert Judd. Ellen and Robert moved to California, where they raised their 3 daughters, Deborah, Lori, and Sheila. In the 1980s, Ellen and Robert moved out of San Jose to enjoy the country life in Humboldt County. They purchased 40 acres in Bridgeville, California that had no running water or electricity. Living the country life was no easy feat. Ellen and Robert had to haul in water, use candlelight and kerosene lamps, watch television from a car battery, and use an outhouse. Their life on the hill was priceless. After about 10 years, now for my mom. Robert Judd, January 7th, 1934 to April 14th, 2022. Robert Judd was born in Niagara Falls, New York on January 7th, 1934 to Arthur and Peggy Judd. He grew up with his cousin Sheila and Robert Smith, who were close as brother and sister. After high school, he enlisted into the Army and served in Germany for 4 years and was briefly stationed in Korea. After serving his country, he returned to New York and attended the Trott Carpentry School to obtain his carpentry license. In 1959, he met and married the love of his life, Ellen Elizabeth Judd. They had 3 beautiful daughters. In the early 60s, Robert moved his family to San Jose, California to follow the construction work on the West Coast. Robert and Ellen bought a house in San Jose, California, where they raised their family. In 1981, Robert and Ellen decided to travel to Northern California to look for property. They found a 40-acre parcel in Bridgeville, California. Robert then started building their home on their property. Robert, also known as Bob or Mr. Judd, was very social. He enjoyed spending his time with his friends at the Bridgeville Cafe when it existed, and later you could find him sitting out front of the swing spot outdoors having coffee with his friends. Bob and Ellen's favorite memories were holding parties and social events on their property for friends and family. There were always good laughs and memories made out of each gathering. Eventually, Bob and Ellen moved into Swing Spot area so that they could take care of his mother. In November, they sadly lost their house due to a fire and moved into Fortuna. Anyone who knew Bob knew that he valued his family and his relationships with his friends. Bob and Ellen had a love like no other. They were married for 62 amazing years. On their 50th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows in their little white church. After his love of his life passed, you could hear him at night telling her good night and how much he loved and missed her. Bob was a networker. If someone was in need of something, he would be on a mission to find it for them. He held nothing back and gave you the facts. He was a hard-working and dedicated man who loved fiercely. Bob had a wonderful sense of humor. He sometimes had his own vocabulary that would make you laugh until you cried. Bob was one of a kind. He is missed dearly by friends and family. And my dad.
You're doing great.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's beautiful, huh?
That's Mama.
Very good.
Forrest Kevin Wildman passed away on Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021, at home surrounded by his loving family in Fortuna, California. Kevin was born in San Jose, California on November 22nd, 1954, and adopted 3 days later to his parents, Forrest Cecil Wildman and Marguerite Louise Wildman. Within a few short years, the family adopted his brother, Terry Wildman. Kevin was raised in San Jose, California. Right out of high school, he joined the Navy. After his service, he hiked, bicycled, and explored different parts of the state in Canada. In 1980, he met his lifelong partner of 41 years, Deborah Burnham, and their 2 small children, Diana and Brent. At the end of 1981, they welcomed their first child, Sean Wildman, in their home in Lake Tahoe. In 1988, the family moved to Humboldt County to be closer to family. Kevin had a love for fishing. His favorite memories were fishing trips with his best friend, Marty. They would come home from trips with wild and crazy stories of their experiences. Kevin was also a practical joker to anyone that knew him. As children, we learned early on to be aware of your surroundings because you never knew what trick would be coming your way. He had a wonderful sense of humor and could make anyone laugh in any situation, whether appropriate or not. Kevin loved his family, especially his grandkids. Midnight milkshakes, Halloween, Easter egg hunts, movie nights, and many more other memories were made. Kevin's health issues began in 1990 when he learned that he needed to have a liver transplant. He successfully recovered from surgery and was able to maintain his liver health until his passing. In 2019, Kevin was later diagnosed with a rare blood cancer that was quite aggressive. Throughout all his health issues, he showed great strength and determination to live his life to the fullest. And then we don't have an obituary for Mike, but I do. My fondest memories of Mike were always, he would always call me sister. Anytime he saw me, he always checked on me to see how I was doing and if everything was okay. And when my dad was sick, he really stepped up, and my grandparents as well. He really stepped up to help out in any way he could. My favorite, my mom and I were talking the other day about Mike and my dad, and she was telling me how he would come in every morning and he would ask my dad, has anyone told you that they loved you today? And so that was just a beautiful memory that I'm so happy that my dad also, they have that relationship. So.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Good job, man.
Very good. There's seats over here.
Nicholas has mine too.
Thanks, Mom.
Well, I don't know if she knew that or not. He doesn't want to ask her, but I can't.
This kind of an event is often called a funeral. I don't care much for that word.
Yeah.
A dictionary tells us that the word funeral means a rite used in the disposition of a dead human body,
Oh.
internment.
That isn't. I
A
didn't know
procession
that.
attending the burial of the dead. But I believe there are more appropriate words used today. And that's a memorial. And the term memorial is described as serving to preserve remembrance, to commemorative, as a monument intended to preserve the memory of a person or event. And this we do today. We preserve the memories of these four precious people. An even better description we can call this event is a celebration of life. And celebration means to observe or commemorate with ceremonies or festivities, to make known publicly, proclaim, praise widely, or to present to widespread and favorable public notice. It means to honor or observe as with solemn rites or ceremonies, to proclaim, extol, sound the praises of. And this today is a celebration of the life of these four people. Today we do celebrate their lives. We commemorate with this ceremony. We make it public, praise it widely, and we know that they are to be celebrated. And although I met Ellen briefly, I wasn't blessed to know each of these four people personally, but I love the obituaries Diana read. So I heard just a few things about Bob and Ellen, that they were married 62 years. Now Charlie and I haven't got there quite yet. We're 59 years. And through all those years, they loved each other very much. And Bob worshiped Ellen, waking up every day thinking of what he could do to make her happy, never thinking of himself. He was a proud man who worked hard and took care of his 4 girls. Who were those 4 girls?
There was my mom and my
Yes.
sister Debbie, me, and Lori that's not
Yes,
here.
his 4 girls.
He always was taking care of women, his mom too.
Family was everything to Bob and Ellen, and they were both such good people their whole lives. Kevin was Debbie's husband and Diana's dad, and I was told he was a liver transplant recipient in 1990, and the doctors estimated a lifespan of 8 to 12 years, but he lived another 25 years.
Wow.
For which the family is grateful. And Mike, who was full of life at 59, he helped anyone who needed it and asked them for only a sandwich in return. It wasn't about getting paid, but more about making people happy. He rarely thought of himself. And as I said, he was considered to be part of the family. These are only a few words about them, but I know there are many parts that you have. And some of you would probably like to share today, and I'd like to ask the family first to share about Bob and Ellen, and then we'll go with Kevin and Mike. Anyone like to share today?
Read mine for me.
Oh, geez, okay.
Go read mine. Do your mama solid.
All right.
It's too hard for me to do it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's too hard. You already have
Got a
experience.
novel here that my mom wrote.
It's 4
So get
people.
comfortable. So, I'm reading this on her behalf, so it'll make more sense that way. By the way, my name is Nicholas. I'm her son. I'm sure most of you already know that. Bob and Ellen were my
Beautiful,
grandparents.
isn't he?
Kevin was my uncle, and Mike was very close to the family, so I have a huge debt of gratitude to him. He was there for the whole family, really, in ways I really can't measure. I didn't know him that well, but I think I know enough to know what kind of a man he was. Anyway. Family was everything to my dad. We grew up being told blood is thicker than water. He would be so happy to see all us gathering to honor them. My relationship with my mom and dad was unique. I was their daughter, roommate, caregiver, and friend. I recently realized that out of 60 years, almost 40 was with them. I'm the youngest, so I wasn't in school like my older sisters. So Mom and I were together every day and would watch Bewitched and I Love Lucy. If we were lucky, a Doris Day movie. We shared the same likes in just about everything. One of my favorite memories is of me, Lori, and Debbie in our pajamas at bedtime. We would gather in one room with Mom and kneel to say our prayers. Then Mom would either tell us a story or sing us a song. She had a beautiful singing voice. I still remember lying in bed watching her sing. Then, when morning came on Saturdays, I would wake to the grinding sound of a table saw because my dad was building something again. He was always building something. To this day, I love that sound. It takes me back to such good times. My mom was always a lady
Yeah.
and never said a curse word. That's true. I can't even make it till noon. She never gossiped or spoke badly about anyone. She would never dream of hurting someone's feelings or raise her voice in anger. When she got sick, she was so brave. I could see how scared she was, but you would never know it. She didn't complain of pain or feel sorry for herself. She was the strongest woman I've ever known. The last thing she said to me was, "I'm not going anywhere." I told her, "Just please don't go far, I'm going to need you." After 3 months, my dad came home from the hospital recovering from another stroke. We were both so broken and lost. It was extremely challenging, and we didn't know how to be without her. I was taking care of him 24 hours a day, especially with my own handicaps. After about a week, we were frustrated and worn out, and he looked at me and said, "Maybe I should just go back to the hospital. This is too much for you." I sat next to him on the bed and said, "Look, Dad, this is all new for us, but we will get it worked out. and I don't ever want you to say you should go back again. It makes me think of a locket my sister Lori gave me that said, "This too shall pass," and it did. It took us about a year and a half to smile again. I think he felt it was disrespectful to her if he felt any happiness. I think this is out of order. What do you do?
I told you I put it in order. It's still the ending part about mom and dad.
I guess I'll just go with it.
Yeah. You might jump around, but you'll
We
get the
were needing
point.
help, and that's when Carrie came through. He insisted on calling her Terry. She came in full of positive attitude and smart-ass comments, and Dad really loved her. He would get so bummed out when she had her days off. She brought him back to where he laughed and said the funniest things. It was a side of him I'd never seen. Well, unlike the sweet words my mom said the day she left, my dad's last words to me were, "Get the hell out of my room."
They were.
He was in the hospital with pneumonia and thought I was taking him home. He was so worried he would die there. I promised him I would get him home, and we did. He was gone the next day. I have been incredibly blessed to have them as my parents, and I'm so grateful for the years I spent with them. The past 2 years with my dad mean more than words can say. In the end, I wasn't just his daughter, I was also his friend. When I first met Mike, it was as if I had known him all of my life. He was charismatic and could transform the mood of a room of people just by walking in. It didn't take much to make him happy. Just a guitar, ribeye steak, and a good joint. He worked harder than anyone I've ever known and always strived to be the best. When most people would make excuses for not helping you move, Mike would have already volunteered. He was always helping someone. If he saw anyone needing help, he would be right there offering. He was a difficult man to love at times, but so worth it. If you were lucky enough to be one of the chosen few to see the man inside, you would see a kind, generous person who just wanted to be loved. He didn't let many see that side of him. Good timing. He was so incredibly creative and the best storyteller ever. I would hear him coming through the trees singing, "If I were a dog instead of a frog, would you still love me?" and asking, "Is this too big for my body?" while gesturing with a piece of wood. He took good care of all of us. When Dad would fall, Mike would always show up 2 minutes after calling him. He never once let them down and was with me when Mom wouldn't take her meds or want to eat. He had a way of talking to her that always got her to listen. They both loved him very much. He always gave them their dignity and respect, and for that I'm forever grateful. Mike didn't have a lot of material things. He just had a treasured few. We survived many tragedies together. When my house burned down, he was right there to help me. I knew nothing about surviving without the basics. I learned so much from him and had so many good times just looking at the sky for UFOs and wandering through the woods exploring. It's hard to believe that all three of you are gone. You were with me every day, and now there is such an emptiness nothing can fill. You all taught me so much, and now I'm determined to make you proud of me. Mike, I miss your unmistakable voice, your
Orneriness.
okay, your smile, and the way you like to hold my hand. If I'm feeling down, all I have to do is remember Mike telling me, "Has anyone told you how much they love you today?" And it comforts me. Kevin and I didn't start off too well. That's a good start.
It's true.
We butted heads a lot in the early years. But in the end, we were good friends. I've never seen anyone fight as hard as he did to live. He spent decades having tests and procedures. Anything he could just to spend more time with his family. Even when he felt horrible, he managed to always be hospitable and tried to smile. His life was changed so drastically after his transplant, but he always kept a positive outlook. He was so nice to me, never judging me, and always had my back. You were so strong, but your body was just tired of trying to fight. I'm so glad I was with you in the end. You had Debbie, me, and Diana, and said goodbye so peacefully. I will keep all of you close in my heart. The 21st is a year since Mike's been gone, yet it feels like he will walk in the door any minute. I couldn't ask for any more in life than to have been part of your lives. So, peace and love and flower power.
That was it. That was what he always said. Peace, love, and flower power. Those are phrases that he always used. Thank you, baby. I appreciate it.
Anyone else have something to share about any of these four? Anyone?
I do. Whoever.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'd like you all to meet.
Oh, you got the bird.
He's kind of, a little out of shape, but this is a birthday present that Mike made for me like 2 years ago for my birthday.
He worked
And
hard on it.
He worked so hard on it. It had at
That's
one point in
awesome.
time the feathers fell off, and after all the experiments he did, he ended up with good old flour
did
and
look
water,
a thing
making
like
glue
that.
or a paste, getting the head to stick to the rock because it's a metal piece.
And that feathers, it was
So-
a toy we had. that
Yeah,
was
so
one of
I mean,
those
I love it to
spring.
death, and I show everybody about it. And so, like, sorry I'm late, by the way. I was trying to get
It's
here.
okay.
You're
But
okay.
Mike tried so hard, and I made him work at becoming my friend, unfortunately, because I hadn't heard always necessarily the best things about him. But I'm open-minded. But he ended up having to live across the street from us, and Sean was on the boat, and so I'm like, no, you're not coming in the camper. You're not. We're cool out there, And so finally, he worked so hard for like 2 weeks, and I finally allowed him to come in, and we finally hung out, and we had so much fun after that. Like, it was one of the shortest but most impressionable times in my life of somebody who, was just a good friend. He was always looking out for the better, and the way he helped everybody in the family was great and wonderful, So, and I miss him greatly because, well, there's things like this and just the funny moments.
And it's the hard work you put into it.
And shows on
feathers and
TV.
everything.
Yeah, oh no, it had feathers and it ended up having to move outside though. So, but,
And all we had was the head.
Yep.
It was on a spring.
but he brought me this rock and yeah, we tried all kinds of things, but he was like, I'm gonna get it right. And I have pictures of it and I didn't get a chance to make one to go with it. But this is just a prime example of the funniness or the happiness that Mike would bring. 'Cause I saw all you guys, you just kind of all smiled. But I can say this is one of the greatest gifts that he could have ever given me or anybody has ever given me just because, well, the memory and the hard work behind it.
Yeah.
And I love Grandma and Grandpa, bless their hearts. I got to work for Grandpa towards the end, helping Sheila Care provide for him. And I tell you what, that man is funny. The inside jokes, the little
Yeah,
cracks, just
he
one-liners
really
he
was.
throws out there. It's just absolutely amazing. Through it all, he still is able to come up with something to laugh and joke about. And Grandma, bless her heart, I love that lady. She's
She
a
would
funny
do that.
character too.
Mm.
Her one-liners were great.
I never saw that side of my dad growing up, at the funny
I've heard
side.
that, and
Yeah,
and
never.
Sean gets angry
He
with me.
never was like that,
Because-
relaxed
yeah.
enough to laugh and make jokes.
He is absolutely hysterical. Sean gets upset with me because until he was like 16, he was boy, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like, and
Well,
when
you're
I
that
first,
girl Denise.
yeah, I'm that girl Denise.
That's what he called her, that girl Denise.
But when I first started dating Sean, he went out of his way every year to give me a birthday card, one of
He
his
did.
random funny birthday cards, or he always remembered my name and my poor Chihuahua. She was MeWe for the longest time, and he goes, I never remember her name, and he was hysterical. And Grandma, she just sat back and watched it all happen and just smiled.
You're still on my phone like that girl Denise.
Well, I would hope so. You wouldn't know
He
any
called her
different.
that.
You wouldn't know any different, trust me. Danielle, yeah, no, you would. Who's that Danielle girl? No, oh,
That
little
girl Denise
Denise.
is coming over.
Yeah, no, it's been a blessing to meet them, and I'm so sorry that they were gone. They made a huge impression in the past, 14 years of my life, and I'm glad that we're all able to get together finally and celebrate them because they were great people. And little things like Tweaky Birds, as we called him, still exist every day all around us, and it's a sad reminder, but it also, I hope they bring happiness too.
Thank you.
I love Kevin, by the way, too. Yeah, Kevin, that's a whole nother story. I
You
could go
worked
on
for
for
him,
20
too.
minutes. Well, Kevin and I went thrift
You
shopping.
went through, I can't believe that you got him out to do that. That is awesome.
Thrift shopping
I told him, he
and
said
the
he would
radio.
go with me. He
Yeah.
wanted to go, but I never got.
And I got him to listen to something else on the radio, 99.1. He rocked out to it all
Really?
the time with me. Yep. And all the time spent with Marty hanging out at the house. Yeah, no. I kind of
Yeah.
got thrown into their
On the
laps for like
computer
3 months
gambling.
when I first met Sean, because I stayed with them while he was in Orville. So I hung out with Kevin and Debbie and just hung out for the longest time, for 3 months actually. And so they kind of got me thrown into their mix. But,
No, Dad loved you right from the start.
oh yeah, no, he was that mad. I love that
I
man.
told Sean, don't fuck it up.
But
Like-
My mom had me laying in bed and hear her and Dad talking about dog breeding. And it sounded like 2 in the morning and Mom's off, you hear this shit?
apparently we were
She
kind
just
of
told him,
loud.
You better eat something. And he's listening. Where'd you find her? You didn't tell Dad to do nothing.
Every
He's
day
like,
we had that
"Okay,
order for
fine."
Debbie when
Unless
she'd
it
be at
was
work.
me.
Remember the
Yeah.
order? She'd call
Your sister, come on.
She takes reign
I
over.
could say
Yeah.
anything to my daddy.
Oh,
My daddy would do
Yeah,
it.
for sure. But
Like if anyone needed something, Dad to do something, it was go tell Diana to go tell Dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I would
tenfold.
tell him, and he'd be like, okay. Yeah.
No.
They were all great people. We're
Right?
very blessed to have
Absolutely.
known them and had them in our lives.
These last 2 years have been,
It's been weird. It's been
Yeah.
weird.
we've lost some really great people.
It's strange being in the house because it's like, I still say, we use this or we, that. I can't say just me.
Yeah.
I've never had to do that before. It's very weird because all 3 of them were in my life every day. I never thought that I knew Mom and Dad would go, but I never thought of Mike leaving. And it's a trip. It's like, why, God, are you having it that way? So I must need to prove myself as being able to take care of myself, you know? I take that seriously because I want my dad to be proud.
He's proud of all of us. They all were, you know. It was tough, you know,
Yeah.
but
Oh, they're still around. Like Kevin's still kicking around the kitchen. I don't know. Pans are flying out of our cupboard randomly.
Really?
Yeah, me
Are
and
they
your
really?
sister,
But that
yeah.
doesn't seem like something he'd do because he'd want you to put it away right.
Well, but
In
we
the
were
right
baking.
spot.
We were baking at the time, so and it happened like 2 days one right after the
Oh,
other
yeah,
to
it
2
was
different
wash
people.
your hands, wash your hands.
Yeah. Kevin's funny face.
Did you wash your hands?
that rubs off because I did to her. So, did you wash your hands?
Yeah,
Go wash your hands.
It's a good
I'm
habit.
like, I sound just like my dad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't. I don't know,
You
it's a
can't
good thing
not.
to wash your hands.
He implemented it in anybody who came to the house. It was
Yeah.
out of the bathroom or into the kitchen.
If you
Did
were allowed
wash your
in.
hands? Yeah, if you were allowed in.
When
True
COVID
that,
happened,
yeah.
we were all banned for a little while.
Or we sprayed down.
Yeah, oh my God,
Spray
he spray
down
us down with
before you
alcohol when we get in the
Yeah,
house.
you gotta
Turn
like,
around, you gotta go like
Your
that.
shoes, like all
I
that.
did, we did. I
Yeah.
forgot
But you
about
know what?
that.
Whatever made him feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Just-
And you just go with it, you know, I'd go in there and start assuming the pose,
Right,
turn around.
yeah, like,
Pick
here
up
we
your
go.
foot. I'd go, I can't pick this one up right. And he goes, it's all right, you know, just as far as you can get it.
Don't mind me, I'm on Bridgeville time.
That's right.
I know while you're eating after the service, you'll have a lot to share. Just continue until midnight.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have something to say?
So, yeah, I do. So my mom, I'm reading this for my mom,
Okay.
to my dad. So it said, well, to everyone.
We're both wins, Debbie.
So it's in our hearts. We thought of you today, but that is nothing new. We thought about you yesterday and days before that too. We think of you in silence. We often speak your name. Now all we have are memories and your pictures in frames. Your memory is our keepsake, with which we'll never part. God has you in his keeping. We have you in our hearts.
Beautiful, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
No,
Short one?
Go ahead.
Okay. Because my name, one of the things I always wonder when I go to celebrations, and that's what this is, it's a celebration of life. I always, when people get up and speak, and I always wonder, who is that? And what is their relationship? Okay, I'm gonna give you my background.
Oh, no.
Please. Yes.
Some of it. But my name is Ron Mcikean, and I go back to Bridgeville days. My wife and I and my family moved up here in the early 80s and moved into the Bridgeville Trail Court there and lived for a few years. But it was only a very short time after moving here that we met Bob and Ellen. And Bob and Ellen were the perfect example of what you'd want to see a family unit be like. I mean, mostly Ellen. I understand what I'm saying. But she was a stabilizing and beautiful angelic force and part of the relationship. Now Bob, that's a different thing. No, he was, I mean, from the word go, he was just, Bob and I had a funny relationship that we like to talk about. We were city boys converted to country. I had lived in the country once upon a way a long time ago. So moving to Bridgeville was not that far from moving from Mississippi in a way. I mean, both socially and the whole 9 yards. It was very much like that. But Bob and Ellen, I probably met Bob over a beer. I can't remember for sure. That means I probably met
Most
him
likely.
over a beer.
Yeah, that's the way you became friends.
Yeah, yeah, but they were regulars at the Bridgeville Cafe, just as I, more than my wife, was there, and talking about social difference. And when I moved out there, there was another guy named Ron, and we were known as Black Ron and White Ron. Guess which one I
All the way
was. But it was all okay because it wasn't social hostility.
Yeah.
It was just, that's what it was. It was the truth. You had a Black Ron and White Ron.
Yeah.
It was that.
Yeah.
But Bob and Ellen, the thing I would say about him, even I never had a bad time. I never had a time when I didn't draw some sense of humor and enlightenment. And what's amazing about that, both he and Ellen, this was during even the time when they were going through some of their most difficult time with the waning and the diminishing of both of them health. It was so cute the way they took care of each other. One wasn't much better off than the other, but they were together, and they took great care of each other. And I didn't miss the benefit of observing that and understanding better what a good relationship with your mate should be if you're lucky. It ought to be. I took from that, and so did my wife, Donna. We both took from that. So I can't talk about much more that's humorous, because you guys have already talked about that without getting kicked out the place. Okay? So, I'm going to leave it at that. So I love Bob and Ellen dearly. I had the good fortune of knowing Mike for a short period of time. And the testimony you heard about how supportive he was and how he was right there. I didn't know him a long time, but he was Johnny on the spot. No two ways about that. You know, and I feel blessed to have known, and I was equally just thrown out when I heard of his passing, because it just kind of came out of nowhere, you know. But anyway, I look around, I see Bridgeville and descendants of Bridgeville. My wife and I, and I'm gonna make it short, my wife and I had the fortune or misfortune of having to go over Highway 36 to get to Reading, because we lost another member of a Bridgeville family, Tim Friend, if you knew the Friend family from Bridgeville, who also were our best friends when we first moved here. But my wife and I were just taking note of how many of our Bridgeville friends are not here. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. You know, and you know, when you're going through times, you're going through tough times, you look and think about your old friends, you know? And so I am so glad that I had the opportunity to live in Bridgeville and have the opportunity to make the acquaintance of so many good, down-to-earth people, period. And I want to thank God for that, and for Bob a little bit.
He loved you.
No, you know, you were there
I
for,
know, he
you were
was
really
my
there
buddy.
for them.
He was my dog, as they say.
Yeah. But
All
we
right,
love
thank
that
you so
you came
much.
and saw him, and he was in the
Uh-huh.
hospital, you came and saw my mom, you were
Yeah.
just such a good friend to them.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
over.
Okay, I want to get out of the way. Where's the beer?
Anybody else?
Well, we came back from that time.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta say, all of these people endured trial and tragedy, one thing after another, sicknesses, but they pressed on being strong, being witty and silly, even though they were sick and dying. And that's something to admire from all of them.
Absolutely.
It really goes to show how important it is to, that friends and family are, because stuff like this, when, yeah.
Yeah, who are
Who
you?
are you?
Nobody.
Oh, that's their grandson, it's like their grandson.
So yeah, it just, if there's anything to take away, don't wait to be there for your friends and
That's right.
family.
Mhm.
Don't say I'll do it later.
That's right.
Don't wait to call somebody. Do it now when you're thinking about it before it's too late. And yeah, they gave us all this. They gave us community.
Mhm.
They gave us family, friends, and
They affected it, the
they
people.
affected everybody in their
Yeah, they
community,
Yeah, they did.
right?
Yeah.
And everybody loved them, and everybody's got a story.
Right.
And it came to our attention last night when we were looking through photos that today is the day in 2009 they renewed their vows.
Yeah,
So-
we didn't realize it until I looked at the marriage certificate over
Just
a
there.
happy
I don't
coincidence.
think that was an accident. That
I
was
know.
the universe coming together on this day to remember them. We chose this day kind of randomly. Worked out for everybody, but it's a pretty special day. So.
Yeah. I know, we looked at the certificate last night, and I was telling him what it was, and he goes, "What day is that?" And I said, "They got remarried on September 10th." And he said, "Oh my God, that's like, how weird is that this is today, on the same day that they got
Right.
remarried?" Yeah, it was nice, I got to be their witness, and it was just the cutest thing when they did that. They got married so many times. They were married, they went to Vegas and got married, they just like loved getting married over and over again.
Is this our people here?
This is our people. Bridgeville.
People? There's one I know.
All right, yeah, it's all Bridgeville.
Well, it's changed.
You know the password, tow card.
You know what, he's,
No, I got my.
he's doing the best he can, you know?
Oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, you do.
Hi.
Ron.
How are you? I'm doing just precious. How are you?
He is a really good boy, there's a lot of kids would be
Got
acting
two
like that.
chairs right there.
There's two chairs.
Well, take a seat, yeah.
Here, I think you want to get, there's three.
Be okay for a little bit. Oh, okay.
Well, I enjoy starving. They're starving.
I really am enjoying to get to know your family. What a precious group of people you are. Can I join?
Where are you going, Mark?
I'm gonna ask
There's some
Charlie
chairs.
to play his,
All right, well, nice to meet you, man.
Gives you an idea what they were like.
Praise on his harmonica.
Yeah.
I need the Diana.
I'm listening, hon.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. There's chairs right here if you'd like to have a seat.
I'll go thank you.
I was asked to play a song, Amazing Grace. Grace is a name that's very popular. You may know somebody named Grace. Anybody here named Grace?
What's that about?
Grace is a word that is really special to me. Grace is a noun. A noun is the name of a person, place, or thing, and it's a thing. It's grace. Grace is a thing. It can also, in my brain, can be a verb, because a verb is a doing word. And you can grace people, especially people that have the incurable disease of being OLD. Old. And I'm thinking of years back when we were first married in 1963. We lived in a place called Boonville. I filled timber for Hollow Tree Lumber Company and about got killed. But one day I came home to our little house. We had some geraniums in pots like this. And some of the geraniums were doing all right, but this one was not growing at all. And we were learning to cook in the house, and we had some iceberg lettuce. And we opened up the leaves, and lo and behold, inside that iceberg lettuce was an earthworm. Little worm, but that long. I took it and put it in that pot that wasn't doing good, that geranium that was not doing like the others. And over a period of about a year, I noticed that geranium began to grow. And it grew so big that I had to replant it in another pot. So when I took it out of the pot and opened up the dirt, that little worm that was that long was now about that long and the size of a number 2 lead pencil.
Wow.
And it had bored through that dirt and made little tunnels all through the dirt. I smiled like that lady smiled in there when I looked at what that worm had done. It was his home. This dirt was its home. And it just lived all over that dirt and little tunnels, and I believe water. When you watered it, the water ran down those conduits into the roots of that geranium. And that's why it grew. Conduits. And each one of us today can be a conduit. Amazing how God can use a worm to rejuvenate a plant. And how God can use you and I as a conduit to bring special love and a special hello, just a smile. And the word grace is very special. It's a free gift from God. Ephesians chapter 2 verse 8 says, "For by grace you are saved through faith. That not of yourself, it's a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast." So grace is heaven's free gift. And you receive special saving grace when Jesus Christ becomes your friend and your Lord. And I trust each one of you have trusted Him and asked Him to come into your heart. Grace will mean more to you when you find Christ as a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. So this song, Amazing Grace, I'm sure you all know the song. My mother used to sing it when she hung clothes on the clothesline. We never had electric dryers when I was a kid, and people knew when my mother was doing her laundry because that was her favorite song. And out there in that canyon we lived, she would sing it. She had a loud voice, and she would sing Amazing Grace and other songs, but this song, I remember her singing it in church, and it goes something like this.
short saying, and it fits so much at this time. It says, God didn't promise days without pain, laughter without sorrow, nor sun without rain. But he did promise strength for the day, comfort for the tears, and light for the way. That's a good saying. And as a minister of the gospel many years, lately especially ministering to seniors, I know I cannot promise those that have lost precious ones that you will not sorrow nor grieve. I cannot promise that. But this one thing I am assured of, God has promised to be with us in those times of loss. His word tells us in Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. He doesn't turn his back on us and say, get over it. No, it says he stands close. He stands with those who are grieving, the brokenhearted, those crushed in spirit. Jesus himself told us in Matthew 5:4, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. This is a promise of comfort. It doesn't say they might be comforted, but they will be comforted. The one time scripture records Jesus crying was at the death of his friend Lazarus. John 11:33-36 tells us of Mary, Lazarus' sister, falling at Jesus' feet and telling him that if you had been here, Jesus, Lazarus would not have died. And we read then, therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. And then we read these words, Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. He groaned in the spirit. It means he was deeply moved, giving a picture of deep grief. He wept. This means he burst into tears, then he wept silently. This should be a comfort to all who experience sorrow. There are tears, but he feels the same sympathy for you that he felt for the relatives of Lazarus. He loves us that much. The death of a loved one or friend is not an easy time, and it will affect each one of us. Let me tell you, I'm getting quite a congregation in heaven. The older I get, the more I have up there. But allow me to share something personal about myself. A few days ago, I celebrated a birthday, and it was a big one. I always say I'm 39. Well, I turned 80. Can you believe it? 80. And now, as Charlie was talking about, I have an incurable disease. It's called OLD. And I know that one of these days, my family will be giving me a celebration of life. And what I would ask them is that they don't be lost in their grief, but celebrate me, who I was, what a part they were of me. Remember me, my laughs, my tears, my funny and not so funny ways. I know I haven't been perfect all these years, but never forget that I love them. Remember me, and that's what a celebration is. And yes, each one of us will experience that day, but death is not something to fear. It is a part of our lives, a part of life itself. There is a beginning and there is an end. And know this, you are not an accident. You are special. When you were created, God saw you. In fact, Psalm 139 verse 13-17 tells us, amazingly, for you, talking about God, formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them. God knew me. God knew you from the very beginning. As you were conceived in your mother's womb, as you were being formed, he knew you. And he saw me the day I was born, when my mom and dad were so happy that finally, after 3 boys, they had a girl. They rejoiced that day. And throughout my childhood, God was there, going to school, running and playing. I was on his mind. He beheld and comforted me when at 12 my dad died of cancer. He knew me through my teens, those questioning years, and he saw me graduate from high school. Then on to college, he knew me, and there, sitting in the lobby in my 3rd year, talking to another student who was teasing me about finding a husband, walking down the hallway came a young man with dark hair, wearing cowboy boots, playing a harmonica. And my friend said, "There you go, Dee." And I said, "No way, not him." And a few months later, I think it was about 6 months later, I walked down the aisle to Mary saying, "I do to that, not him." But God saw me, God planned my life. Then on through married life, getting jobs and paying bills and buying a home, having children, first a daughter, and then another daughter, and then a son, and then another son, and 4 children, and watching them grow, and them marry, and have children of their own. Pretty soon I had 8 grandchildren, and not too long after that I had 8 great-grandchildren, living life with all its ups and downs. And one day, only God knows when, I will close these earthly eyes for the last time, and I will open them in heaven. And my family will give me a memorial, a celebration of life. But let me take you back to 2 of the darkest days of my life. One was the day I lost a daughter to death. How could that be? Children are to be the ones putting their parents in the grave, not a parent, a child. That was a very difficult time for me and for Charlie. And we held a memorial service for her, and many came to give their condolences. And with the love and encouragement of family and friends, we tried to walk through that time. And that should have been the end. But 7 months later, I received a call telling me my youngest son had died. Oh no, I said, how could that be? How could I lose a daughter and then now, a few months later, a son? It wasn't fair. And I have another memorial service, and many came around to console us. And I have to tell you, I was still hurting. A part of me was missing. And one day I went to their grave sites and I was grieving. And as I got out of the car and started toward my son's grave, I heard the words, "Why seek ye the living among the dead?" And I shook myself, knowing God was firmly speaking to me. I was not to be lost in my grief. I knew their ashes were there, but they were very much alive. They are not and never will be gone from me. They are alive and well in my heart. Somebody set their alarm off. But their love and their memories are still mine. I think of my daughter and her beautiful dark hair. Her eyes, sometimes dark brown, and then they change to be olive colored, just like her dad's. I think of her funny personality and her love and her hugs. And I think of my youngest son, his beautiful blue eyes, like mine. And I remember his little feet coming down the hall at night to climb in bed with me, and then growing into a tall, good-looking man. And I very much remember his happy face as he held his own newborn daughter in his arms. And when I look at my grandchildren, their children, I see their reflection. And I notice my late son and daughter's similarities in each of them. And I notice the same moods. They have the same ups and downs as their mom and dad did. I do miss them, and days and nights long for them. but I look forward to seeing them again when I make my own way to heaven. In Psalm 30, verse 5, a very precious verse to me. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Weeping may endure today, tonight, but joy comes in the morning. I will never forget them. They were in my dreams, but they are still much alive and well. And when Jesus was contemplating the fact that he would soon be gone from this earth, he told his disciples, recorded in John 14, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also." That's God's words. That's Jesus' promise. Don't be troubled. I'll come and receive you one day. And John 3:16, and I'm sure most of you can quote that. It reads, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes on him should not